Okay. Let's go to the third game that happened today. It was the second game that happened chronologically in the day. We are basically just going back in time throughout the course of this day. This game was the Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Suns regain home court advantage. They beat the Clippers 112-100. This was, again, just an absolute masterclass from Devin Booker. We talked about that on the last podcast about how his defense particularly has been very high level throughout the course of this series. He's become a true two-way player. And I was talking to, an NBA executive earlier today, and we were just kind of trying to discuss how many guys would you actually take over Devin Booker in this playoffs right now based off of how he's played. We said Kawhi, if Kawhi is healthy. We said probably Giannis, if Giannis is healthy. Maybe Jimmy Butler. There are a few others that are certainly in Devin Booker's ballpark. Joel Embiid is certainly one of them. Kevin Durant on his own team is certainly one of them. Stephen Curry, absolutely one of them. But Devin Booker's been the best player in this series so far outside of Kawhi Leonard, and he's played in all 4 games. That's the critical part. And it really does come down to the fact that Devin Booker has drastically improved on the defensive end. You cannot take advantage of him anymore in switch opportunities. He is big. He is strong. He is active. He really gives a shit on that end now. Early in his career, Devin had some engagement issues that felt like defensively. He's not that anymore. He is an absolute stud, and I think he deserves an immense amount of credit for the way he has gone about improving his game. On top of that, Devin had 7 assists in this game, and that is a big underrated part of how Devin Booker has drastically improved throughout the course of his career. He has gotten much better at finding the open man over the last 3 years, instead of the first few years of his career, where it was a lot more difficult shots, a lot tougher looks, a lot of contested opportunities. He's still taking contested opportunities, but it feels like he is taking fewer terrible shots, which is important for them moving forward. The big thing I want to talk about, though, with the Phoenix Suns is something that I talked about on the last podcast. Deandre Ayton. I said that the Suns desperately needed more from Deandre Ayton in order to go further in the playoffs. And I think that they can win this series without Deandre Ayton playing at his best. But I think we saw today the real differentiator in terms of what happens when Deandre Ayton is playing a real factor in terms of offensively, consistently rim running, consistently getting to the basket and making his presence felt. The Clippers in game 3 felt like they could just play small the whole game. There were times where they had nobody above 6'5" out on the court. And that was an adjustment Ty Lue made because he felt like Deandre Ayton was not going to actually hurt them and impose his will on the game. Different story in game 4. Deandre Ayton goes for 15 points and 13 rebounds. He goes 7 of 13 from the field. And I want to point out specifically where all of his makes came from. I think this is a really important thing and the context of where all of his makes came from. So here you're going to see Kevin Durant drive off of a heavy closeout, off of an offensive rebound from Russell Westbrook. He's going to spot DeAndre Ayton right in the dunker spot. DeAndre Ayton goes up strong, finishes right at the basket. No more of that, I'm 2 feet away from the basket. I'm going to throw up a little hook shot in order to protect the ball while also not going up strong. He goes up, dunks it, finishes it at the rim. Okay, second play here. This is a miss from Chris Paul. There he is on the offensive glass. DeAndre Ayton had 4 offensive rebounds in this game. This was his lone putback. It was an important putback in the context of this game, just to establish what I thought was a bit more of a tone of DeAndre Ayton being willing to finish around the basket a little bit more consistently. Now, we're going to go to the second quarter here, where we're going to start into the ball screen part of this. DeAndre Ayton catches in that short roll area, but instead of stopping and surveying or stopping and popping for that little floater, drives all the way to the rim, uses those long strides, uses that aggressiveness, uses that power and that force that he has in order to actually just dunk the ball. There was someone going up on the weak side. He could have easily stopped for that floater. We've seen him do it before. He does not do that here. He goes up strong. This is an enormous thing for this Phoenix offense. If Deandre Ayton is a downhill presence, it makes it so you can put Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the weak side of the action and basically put opposing teams into impossible decision circumstances. Do you tag off of Devin Booker or Kevin Durant, or do you not tag off of them and give DeAndre Ayton an easy bucket? This is why DeAndre Ayton getting downhill is so important. He makes life so much easier for the rest of the Phoenix Suns offense. You're going to see this again here. He's going to come up. He's going to set a screen. He's going to flip it for Kevin Durant. He's going to roll all the way to the basket. He's going to dunk it. Very simple stuff. DeAndre Ayton can genuinely walk into 15 points a night if he wants to, just by rolling all the way to the rim with the talent surrounding him. Again, we're going to come up. He's going to set the screen off the KD handoff for Devin Booker. It's kind of a Spain action at the end of the day where they're screening the screener. DeAndre Ayton rolls to the basket. Easy lob for Devin Booker out of that set action. Okay, again, high ball screen for DeAndre Ayton. This is going to be the floater, but as you're going to see, this is the only one that he made today. I'm good when this is a counter to things. This can't be the primary thing for DeAndre Ayton. This needs to be the counter for him. Ivica Zubac also on the court, playing heavily in drop. That's a great counter for when Zubac is on the court. Now, again, we're going to see a high ball screen. Chris Paul going to go around it. He's going to throw this lob. Incredibly athletic, acrobatic finish for DeAndre Ayton. These are the things DeAndre Ayton needs to do. He can walk into 15 points a game, which is all Phoenix needs. Phoenix needs him to be an active weak side rim protector, and they need him to rim run constantly. I thought that this was DeAndre Ayton's best game of the series. And as he continues to do this, this is where he's going to be an impactful player for the Phoenix Suns, especially in this iteration, surrounded by Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. Chris Paul had a great fourth quarter. It was funny. He had a moment in the fourth quarter early on where Mason Plumlee was able to stay attached to him in an isolation situation. And I texted a friend. I was like, man, I'm a little bit worried about Chris Paul if he's like not even beating Mason Plumlee off the bounce here. At the end of the day, Chris Paul ends up really doing a great job throughout the fourth quarter of orchestrating things, being the silencer, the guy that is really comfortable and confident taking shots in big moments. The Clippers made runs in the fourth quarter, led by Russell Westbrook. And Chris Paul was willing to be that guy that stepped up in the big moments and shut down any momentum that the Clippers had. Now, the final thing I want to talk about here is Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook goes for 37 points on 29 shots, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. It was an absolutely terrific game from Russell Westbrook. I was so excited to see him play this well. It's the thing I think I've gotten the most enjoyment out of in these playoffs is just Russell Westbrook being the guy that we've seen him be previously, that aggressive downhill attacking presence. And I think it just goes to show the level of confidence that it takes at times to really feel like you are a part of a scheme and not an afterthought, right? At times it's felt like, especially with the Lakers, Russell Westbrook was kind of an afterthought with them. It was about LeBron. It was about Anthony Davis. If he fucked up, he was coming out of the game. If he screwed up, he would start coming off the bench for multiple games like happened at the beginning of this season, right? Russell Westbrook has his warts as a player, seemingly as a person, although I will say every player that's been around him, every staff member within organizations that has been around him, for the most part, that I've spoken to really likes Russell and says he's very respectful, very good person. Always, I think, takes care of the people on the staff in terms of the people that aren't making a ton of money. He makes sure it gives them like heavy Christmas gifts. That's been reported throughout the course of his career as well. I think that throughout the course of that Lakers run, he seemed to lose confidence. And now that he has this role with the Clippers, with Kawhi Leonard, with a friend of his in Paul George, which I think is something you can't really underestimate here, we're seeing a Russell Westbrook that is re-engaged. We're seeing maybe the effect of Ty Lue just telling him, You are not coming out of this game. We need you. Be the old Russ. Be the downhill aggressive Russ that we've seen. And look, how does this work next year when they actually have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, hopefully, playing next to him? Who's to say, right? I don't think we know. I don't think anybody knows. I don't think Russ knows. I don't think that organization knows. But I would absolutely pay to find out based off of what we've seen. They can't offer him a crazy amount, but and by a crazy amount, I mean they can basically offer him like the mini mid-level exception. Although, given the new restrictions on the Clippers, they actually can't even offer him that. I think they are basically restricted via his non-bird rights to where the minimum, or maybe even like the biannual exception, if they have that, is the most they can offer him. If I was Russ, I would take it. I would. Look, it's easy for me to say it's not my money, but I know that I would prioritize happiness if I was Russell Westbrook. And he looks happier. He looks more aggressive. He looks more on it, both defensively and engaged defensively, particularly, as well as motivated than what we've seen him over the course of the last couple of years. And I love it. I love seeing an engaged, motivated Russell Westbrook. I love seeing him remind everybody of who he can be as an NBA player. And it's been great to see over the course of the last 4 games of this series, realistically. Yeah, I think, there are some people in the YouTube comments saying, look, it was just a horrific fit. Does this say more about the Lakers and LeBron's dealings with Westbrook or the Clippers? I don't know, man. I think it's just more about it wasn't a great fit. LeBron likes to dominate the ball and on some level, and they had Anthony Davis coming in and out of the lineup. I just think that sometimes fits don't work. And it was so poisoned after the first season that it's just hard. It's really, really hard. LeBron's teams operate best when they're surrounded by shooters. The first segment of this podcast was literally devoted to what happens when you have a non-shooter as well as Anthony Davis in the lineup consistently next to LeBron James. It's hard. It's just not the best way for him to thrive because he loves to be able to spray the ball out to shooters. He loves to be able to get everybody involved. He loves to be able to play that domineering yet unselfish style of basketball. And it's hard when you have non-shooters out there. And the crazy thing is that Russ is shooting the hell out of the ball right now. And I think, again, it shows confidence is the key. I think Russ is a guy that feeds off of proving people wrong, probably on some level. This is a guy that was a very low-end recruit entering UCLA, was not expected to be a top 5 pick, even coming into the draft that he was a top 5 pick. And I think that all of this just motivates him. And I think that, again, we're seeing a motivated Russell Westbrook. And I absolutely enjoy it and love it.